I'm calling it. Time of death for Xbox consoles, 1:53 p.m. Can we please observe a moment of silence from my childhood? Thank you. With Phil Spencer confirming in recent interviews that Xbox exclusives are essentially dead, any hope of Xbox consoles having a real and lasting future just went flying out the window. As a once proud Xbox fanboy, I'm deeply saddened, because it didn't have to be this way. But after 12 years of misguided decisions and a stunning inability to learn from past mistakes, I believe Phil Spencer must sacrifice Xbox consoles and exclusives to save the brand and grow Game Pass. Now, before you crucify me in the comments section, give me a chance to explain and make my case. I understand if you disagree with me, but hear me out in my entirety before passing judgment. Please. To understand how Microsoft ended up in this mess, just look back at the Xbox One, better known as the Chernobyl of gaming consoles. I don't think people fully grasp the extent of its fallout, or how the decisions Microsoft made throughout that generation continue to damage the Xbox brand to this day. As I mentioned earlier, I was once a die-hard Xbox fanboy. I owned the original Xbox and multiple Xbox 360s. Halo was and still is one of my all-time favorite franchises, and it's the reason I became an indie game developer. Most of my fondest gaming memories happened on an Xbox. Whether it was spending hours playing Modern Warfare 2 online with friends, or sitting on my best childhood friends' couch playing through Gears of War and Halo 3 together. The Xbox 360 was truly a magical console with an incredible library of exclusives. So if you think I'm just a Sony or Nintendo shill, trust me, that couldn't be further from the truth. With the launch of the Xbox One, Microsoft didn't just drop the ball, they face-planted in a way no other console maker had before. It was as if they looked at Nintendo and the disastrous Wii U and said, "Hold my beer." It still baffles me that no one at Microsoft foresaw how poorly its digital rights management policies would sit with gamers. Or maybe they simply believed the prestige and dominance they built during the Xbox 360 era would let them strong-arm their audience into accepting draconian policies, like requiring the Xbox One to connect to the internet every 24 hours for games to work, imposing absurd restrictions on used game sales, tying disc-based games to Xbox Live accounts, and forcing the Kinect sensor to be plugged in at all times for the console to function. In hindsight, these decisions weren't just tone deaf, they were a glaring sign of how little Microsoft valued its customers. Only the most loyal, sheep-like fans could have thought these were good ideas. Yes, Microsoft eventually walked back these disastrous policies after massive backlash from the Xbox community, but the damage was already done. And even with those reversals, 5 major problems remained. Problem number 1. The Xbox One launched on November 22nd, 2013, but Microsoft didn't sell a Kinect-free version until June 9th, 2014, more than 7 months later. Problem number 2. At launch, the console was an eye-watering $499, roughly $680 today. Problem number 3. Despite its monolithic size, the console still needed a bulky external power brick. Problem number 4. The Xbox One was less powerful than the PS4, and trust me, it showed. Problem number 5. The first-party franchises that made the Xbox 360 a success, Halo and Gears of War, were nowhere to be found. Put simply, the Xbox One was a train wreck of biblical proportions. If you want to deep dive into why it failed, I highly recommend watching Austin Evans' video on the topic. It's truly fantastic. Microsoft's obsession with making the Xbox One a do-it-all entertainment device made them lose sight of what actually sells game consoles. Exclusives! Without killer exclusives, failure is inevitable. Despite its inferior performance and all the baggage that came with it, the Xbox One could have sold far better if it had launched with outstanding exclusives and consistently delivered them throughout its lifespan. Instead, the console launched with just okay exclusives like Dead Rising 3, Forza Motorsport 5, and Rise Son of Rome, and the highly anticipated titles we had to wait years for, like Halo the Master Chief Collection, Halo 5 Guardians, Gears of War 4, and Gears 5 were far from groundbreaking. They were just meh, especially when stacked against the fresh masterpieces Sony and Nintendo were delivering for the PS4 and Nintendo Switch. I bought my Xbox One solely for the Master Chief Collection, only to be massively let down. While the campaigns were playable and a lot of fun, the multiplayer was a disaster. I'll never forget my friend waiting 15 minutes just to get into a match, only to finally load in and get booted for no apparent reason. It felt like slamming your head against a brick wall. While the performance and visuals of Xbox One exclusives were quite fantastic, most other games ran poorly, and it showed. Microsoft had an opportunity to course correct with the Xbox One by strengthening its studios and prioritizing quality over quantity. Instead, it torched that strategy with a flamethrower, launching Xbox Game Pass and embarking on an acquisition spree. I don't know if Game Pass was always part of Microsoft's plan, or if it was a reactionary move born out of fear to compete with Sony and Nintendo. But regardless of its origins, it's the reason Xbox consoles are currently aboard the Titanic, barreling toward the iceberg. Why? Because Microsoft's ambition to become the Netflix of gaming is antithetical to running a successful traditional console business. For a console to have any chance of success, it needs exclusives. For Game Pass to become the Netflix of gaming, it needs to be on as many platforms as possible. The two business models are fundamentally at odds, forcing Microsoft to choose which one to save. Microsoft may claim it has no intentions of bringing Game Pass to other platforms, but its actions say otherwise. With Forza Horizon 5 launching on PS5 this spring and the Master Chief Collection following close behind, the writing is on the wall. I don't know how long it will take, but mark my words, Game Pass will be on every platform and Xbox consoles will go the way of the dodo. If you need more proof, just watch the "This is an Xbox" ad Microsoft released 3 months ago. Honestly, I'm relieved Microsoft is exiting the console business, because watching Xbox hardware be treated so poorly for so long has been too painful to bear. If Microsoft's decision to neglect exclusives wasn't bad enough, its choice to release two vastly different consoles this generation, the Series X and Series S, further proves its incompetence in both hardware and game development. For those unfamiliar, Microsoft mandates feature parity across its consoles, meaning that while resolution and frame rates can differ, the core game must be the same on both the Series X and its underpowered, ugly little sister, the Series S. By enforcing this requirement, Microsoft is actively limiting the scope and ambition of games for the Series X, as developers must account for the weaker hardware of the Series S. If this asinine policy doesn't change, more and more developers will opt out of releasing their games on Xbox altogether. And given Phil Spencer's recent comments, I don't see this restriction being lifted anytime soon. All of these missteps, combined with the fact that Microsoft has only sold a combined 30 million units of the Series X and S, make the choice between which business model to save abundantly clear: Game Pass. At this point, even if Microsoft wanted to salvage a traditional console business, I don't see how it could. Sony and Nintendo are simply too far ahead. When you step back and think about it, none of this should come as a surprise. As a friend pointed out to me recently, Microsoft has really only had one truly successful console, the Xbox 360. By comparison, its other three attempts, the original Xbox, the Xbox One, and the Series X, have either been outright commercial failures, or at best, only mildly successful. I wish Microsoft would do the humane thing and put the Xbox consoles out of their misery fast. But with 34 million people subscribed to Game Pass, that's simply not feasible. The death of Xbox must happen gradually, much like the metaphor of the boiling frog. If you drop a frog into a pot of boiling water, it will immediately jump out. But if you place it in lukewarm water and slowly raise the temperature, the frog won't notice the danger until it's too late. Likewise, Microsoft can't abruptly pull the plug on Xbox consoles without triggering a mass exodus. Instead, Microsoft needs to maintain the appearance they care about hardware by releasing another console, ensuring that those 34 million subscribers don't get spooked and abandon ship. To quote Admiral Akbar, the next console is a trap. Microsoft doesn't care about the next Xbox. They will only pretend they do to encourage subscribers to upgrade. But after selling millions of units, I'm almost certain Game Pass will eventually expand to all platforms. Again, I believe this process will take years to unfold. Just look at Netflix. It wasn't until September 2023 that they finally stopped mailing DVDs to customers. However, Microsoft might move faster. I am saddened not only as an Xbox fan, but also as a gamer and customer. Without formidable competition, Sony can charge whatever it wants for its next generation of consoles. Just look at the price of the PS5 Pro. Yes, a new Xbox is on the horizon, but it will be a shadow of its former self. Stripped of exclusives, devoid of identity, and little more than a watered-down gaming PC masquerading as a console. In short, it won't pose a real threat. Some might argue that PlayStation faces a similar fate, with Sony gradually releasing its most popular games on PC. However, this situation is different. First, Sony isn't bringing all of its exclusives to PC. Second, it typically takes 1 to 2 years for a new PS5 game to be ported to PC. Third, the ports aren't always flawless. These factors make a compelling case for owning a PlayStation for the foreseeable future. The same holds true for Nintendo. It's sad to think that Xbox has been reduced to just a name. It didn't have to be this way, but Microsoft made too many boneheaded decisions to salvage a traditional console business. Game Pass becoming the Netflix of gaming is the only way for Xbox to survive. I know people love dunking on Phil Spencer, but from a long-term perspective, I believe he'll be remembered as a business genius who ultimately prevails over Sony. Building game consoles is an incredibly expensive endeavor, as they are typically sold at a loss, with the deficit made up through the sale of games, services, and accessories. Shifting Xbox away from the hardware business is a smart move for 4 key reasons. First, it offers substantial cost savings. Second, the rising cost of new components is pushing console prices higher, making them more difficult to sell. Third, as console prices rise, the gap between PC and console gaming continues to shrink. Finally, whether people will admit it or not, Game Pass is an exceptional service that offers unparalleled value. If it were available on PS5 today, I would subscribe without hesitation. I have used Game Pass on PC in the past and I absolutely loved it. Game Pass only continues to improve and its library of games is steadily growing. Compared to Game Pass, the 3 tiers of PlayStation Plus offered by Sony are downright laughable. None of this changes the fact that the Xbox of my youth has fallen cold and dead. But at this point, I'd rather see Xbox fully evolve into a service than continue enduring its slow death. So, to the Xbox of my childhood, good night, sweet prince. Farewell and thanks for the memories. I'll never forget you. If you enjoyed this video, please consider dropping a like and subscribing. Well, that's all for now. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.